Welcome to today's video. We are going to talk about something extremely important today, and it may affect you. And it's about why too many media buyers are focusing on they're just letting the AI black boxness of all these ad networks today do all their heavy lifting, and they're losing touch with the importance of being able to analyze metrics. What we're going to cover today is something I call base metric mapping. And by the end of this video, I will unlock for you how to create a baseline of good results on campaigns that have worked in the past and what numbers you need to jot down so you can keep them at easy reference, how to compare a current campaign that may not be working great to those base metrics so you can figure out why it didn't work, and also how to diagnose a campaign that's failing and what you could potentially change in it to help improve its results. This stuff is extremely important. It's not the most exciting or glossy stuff because we're not talking about AI or avatars or some way to come up with new hooks and intros and things like that. But this is the base stuff that we need to know. It's the foundational stuff that as media buyers and professionals, we need to know to be doing a good job for either our own businesses or for our clients' businesses, okay? So buckle up, here we go. All right, so let's start talking about what the heck are base metrics. These are like the vitals for your campaign. If we think of like our blood pressure and our pulse and some of these things that we would get checked on for vitals as a human, these metrics are what we want to keep a touch on for our campaigns. I'm going to cover them for you right now. Now, I'm going to be talking about these in reference to a Google, YouTube, or demand gen campaign. Near the end of this video, I'll talk about how this can overlay with TikTok and Instagram and Facebook ads as well, because the same concept works. But let's dig into the metrics that we bring up in every campaign we're looking at inside our Google Ads dashboard and how we sort of observe these metrics, okay? So here we go. We're going to start with the first one. The first one is CPM. This is cost per thousand impressions. This is a very misunderstood or ignored metric by most advertisers in today's market because we're just used to let's upload a TikTok, let's upload a reel and just press go, boost post. But CPM stands for the cost per thousand impressions. This is how most ad networks are actually charging us for advertising. So every time our ads get shown 1,000 times to people, there's an amount of that. Sometimes it's really high. I've seen CPMs of $40, $50, $60 over on Meta. And then over on Google, we tend to see them more in the $6 to $10 range. This is our key metric for how much are things going to cost. When CPM is high, the only thing we can do is either have a higher click-through rate so that our cost per each click is lower, or have a better conversion rate for every click so that the higher cost is made up for in more sales. The next metric is the engagement rate. Now, again, most of these are going to be metrics you probably don't look at a lot, but the engagement rate is one that over the last 12 months we've really dug into. Engagement on Google is two different things. If the video or the ad being watched is a video and it's in stream, so one of the skippable ads that you can skip before you watch a video, or it's a YouTube short, then engagement stands for either a 10-second view of that video or a click on the video, on the call to action button, okay? Now, if the ad is being shown as an in-feed or display type ad in the suggested videos or in the Discover placement or in Gmail or somewhere else, it's either a click on the thumbnail or one of the pieces of copy like the call to action, or when it's on the YouTube site, people can actually mouse over or thumb over the video when it's in the suggested feed, and it will start to play almost like it would play a regular organic video. And if they watch 10 seconds of that's also considered an engagement. A sidebar tip here is this is why captions are very important. Putting your videos up with captions on them, not just for the shorts placement, but also when they're landscape, because if someone has the chance to watch that video muted when it's in a thumbnail type position in the suggested videos or search feed on YouTube, you want them to know what the heck it is, and they probably can't read lips. So you want to be putting captions on your videos. Okay, so next up is view rate after engagement. View rate is a subsection of engagement. So if we have a 50% engagement, that means people watch 10 seconds. A view is a 30-second view or a full view of the video if it's less than 30 seconds. So of course, we're going to see a lower view rate than we see engagement, but it's still an extremely key indicator as to how the ad is performing, how an audience is performing, how a device or demographic target is performing, okay? We need to look at this. Now, I also like to bring it up. This is a sort of a bonus tip here. I want to look at how the view rate is in stream, so the pre-roll ads, shorts feed, so when people are flipping through YouTube Shorts, as well as in feed, not in streams when it's a display ad. You're going to see a declining level of view rate in each of those, but we still want to see how it's performing, because if someone is clicking on our ad, say in feed, but then not watching it, that's a problem. So we won't go too deep on that, but it's important to take a look at that. The next metric we bring up in our dashboard is going to be the average watch time per impression. Now, this one is a mouthful, but here I'm going to try and explain as simple as I can. For every 1,000 impressions that our ad is shown, not everybody's going to watch it, but what's the average watch time? If we divide all the watch time for 1,000 impressions by 1,000, what is that average watch time? That metric is key because we use that when we're evaluating what to change in a creative. So let's say the average watch time is 23 seconds. We're really going to focus on that first 23 to 25 seconds of an ad when it starts to fatigue or if it's not working. We could redo the whole ad, but what the metrics are telling us, you can see if engagement is 50%, so 50% of the people watch 10 seconds, view rate is 25%, so then 25% of the people watch 30 seconds, and the average watch time is, let's say, 20 seconds. Now we can get a feeling for what most people are seeing. Now, I'll try not to confuse you, but listen to this point here. 30% of all people are only watching 30 seconds of that video. That's what I just said. 50% engagement, 30% view rate, and remember, a view is a 30-second view of the whole video, and then our average watch time is, say, 20 seconds. So we want to focus, if we're trying to improve an ad, we're trying to get a higher engagement, higher click-through rate, better results. We really want to focus our efforts on that 20 to 30-second range based on that, what I just described there, because that is what people are seeing. That is what they're making their decision on if they click, if they skip, if they watch the ad, okay? All right, next up, we're going to look at the click-through rate and the cost per click. These are obviously important because if your ad has a wicked engagement rate, excellent view rate, but piss poor click-through rate, you can't get any results on it, right? Unless your whole goal is just to retarget video views. But most of us running action conversion campaigns, we want that sweet conversion off our first clicks, right? So your click-through rate is going to vary based on what type of device, what your ad is, who you're targeting, what the offer is, how broad of appeal it is, but you need to know what your CTR is. Different places around the web will say aim for a 1% or better CTR. We often see success in a blended from all the different placements on demand gen in the 0.6 to 0.75 range. That means we're seeing a lower click-through rate maybe on shorts, but a higher click-through rate in stream and in feed, and it blends together. There's an easy way inside each of your campaigns to look at how each ad is performing in the different placements, and you can click on the View Ad Details link underneath any ad, and that brings up a really cool table that shows you great data on what is what and how the different metrics stack up in the different placements for each ad, for each piece of creative in that ad set or asset set, pardon me, and everything else. It's a great place that we get a ton of insights on. The last thing we bring up and include in our base metrics list is the number of conversions and the conversion rate. These are both very important. Obviously, number of conversions and cost per conversion rules the roost. If those don't work, then the campaign, we're not just in the business of giving money away. And then the conversion rates or number of conversions, I do this a little bit different. Google measures it differently. You'll see your conversion rate's always really low because they're measuring it against impressions generally, not clicks. I like to sometimes export this data and I do it in my own spreadsheet, whereby what I'll do is I will divide my number of conversions by number of raw clicks and look how my lander page is converting because I have more control over that. So those are the metrics we bring up. I'm going to show you around the screen right here where you can go in, you can create your own base metric saved column list. We do this in here for every campaign or every account we're working in. It makes it really easy at a glance just to see how everything is doing. Without this, you're just wasting time constantly going up and modifying columns. So I would highly recommend that you just set a saved column setting at the campaign level, ad group level, and ad level in your Google account. And then that's available wherever you're at. Just saves time, makes it super easy, okay? So those are the metrics. Those are our base metrics. Now let's talk about what it means to compile them, map them, and utilize them to compare against future campaigns, future creatives, and things like this. Okay, so what you want to find, hopefully, is you have a campaign from either your current campaigns you're running or a previous campaign that has done well. What does done mean? It means that it has spent a reasonable amount of money, and that's going to vary based on your industry. For some, it might be $1,000. For some, it might be $100,000. But one that has spent a reasonable amount of money for you based on your budget that has gotten conversions, whatever those are for you, an opt-in, a sale, a lead, at an acceptable cost. When you have that, you want to go into your account and you want to look at what are the base metrics for the campaign, what are the base metrics for the best ad, and if it was a demand gen campaign and not a previous YouTube campaign, because demand gen's really kicked in 2025 here, you can dig in and look at the the ad placement details, okay? And look at what were the best base metrics for this campaign on shorts, in feed, and in stream. You want to put all those somewhere. Put them in a spreadsheet, keep them, because this is going to be your gold standard. This is what you're going to measure all future campaign success or failures against. And this is what you're going to use as a measuring stick to figure out what to do with an ill-performing campaign, all right? So we've got our base metrics stored in a spreadsheet somewhere. Now it's time to utilize those and do some base metric mapping, okay? What this means is we're going to look at a campaign that maybe isn't doing too well right now. And we're going to pull up our custom columns. We're going to look at the campaign level and the ad level. If you're not running multiple ad groups, I don't usually only run one ad group for most of our demand gen campaigns. And we're going to start comparing those base metrics in the current campaign that's not working against our gold standard, those ones that we put in a spreadsheet that we use as our sort of yardstick to see how things are going. We want to look at the engagement rate. How is this current campaign comparing to our best performer on engagement, on view rate, on average watch time? Here isn't as important to compare because maybe our ad is shorter, but it's an extremely important metric when it comes to if we need to tweak the ad, edit it, change out the hook, change out the lead, change out the intro visuals and script and call out, okay? So engagement, view rate, click-through rate, cost per click, CPM, conversions, and conversion on lander, ideally. These are the things that I want to look at. So the first thing to look at is engagement and view rate. Those are important because if the ad is not getting the same engagement or the same view rate as our best case scenario, then there's one of two things wrong. Either the audience is not matched to the ad, so maybe you're testing a different audience with an ad this time and it's not working as well, or a different device or a different geo or a different gender or age demographic or something like that. So that's one thing that could be the problem. Or the ad is not as good. So it could be the intro visual, the intro call out line. It could be just when the call to action is. It could be a multitude of things, but generally speaking, engagement down, view rate down, something in that first 30 seconds is not cutting the mustard for this audience, for this campaign. Then we can go look at the CTR and the CPC. Now, let's set the CPC over here for a second because that's going to be, I'll explain that in a second, but the click-through rate on the ad needs to be, everything else equal, pretty much as good as your best performing ads and campaigns in the past. If it's not, then there's a problem. That maybe means that you, for whatever reason, when you made this ad, you didn't put the call to action up in that front 30 seconds. Or maybe your call to action is way at the end at minute 43. And then you look at your metrics in your ad account and you're like, oh, the average watch time for impression on this video is 20 seconds. But my call to action is at 1 minute 43. Of course, my click-through rate is crap, right? So that's another thing to keep in mind. 9 times out of 10, we're modifying the ad, right? Unless we're doing an audience, what we call an audience first test. So if we have a winning ad that's maybe running to, I don't know, broad, let's say, it's running to just age narrowing in all of a country or something like that, or all of a state, then we might want to see if we can improve performance by taking that same winning ad, putting it in another campaign, but targeting a specific audience, maybe a lookalike audience, maybe a video view audience, maybe a custom intent audience, a custom segment, or maybe a stock Google audience, one of many things, but we'll try and test that. And we'll know pretty quickly based on those metrics if it's going to work for us or not. So let's work through an example here. Let's say here are our base metrics. We've got in this spreadsheet, we've got our engagement rate, our view rate, our CTR, our cost per click, our CPM, and our average impression time. And here's a comparable campaign that's not doing super well. We're going to compare this. You can see here from this example that I'm showing on the screen, just a fictitious spreadsheet we're making here, is that the engagement rate is down, the view rate is down, the CTR is down, and the cost per click is higher. But the cost per 1,000 impressions is basically the same, and the average watch time per impression is down. This is a classic setup to say, this ad is not as good as our ad that was our best performer or best performers if it was more than one ad in that control campaign. We've got less people wanting to watch the first 10 seconds. They're skipping or swiping away. We've got less people willing to watch the first 30 seconds because the view rate's down. Our average watch time per impression is down. So this supports this lower engagement and lower view rate. Our click-through rate is down, which of course just keeps crap rolls downhill, right? And that drives our cost per click up, even though the CPM, the cost per 1,000 impressions, stayed the same. So why did the cost per click go up? I said I wanted to set that aside. It's because if a lower percentage of people who see the ad click, that's just drop. There's no other way. Cost per click is higher, right? The only way to lower cost per click is either increase CTR at the same cost per 1,000 or decrease the cost per 1,000. And the only real way to decrease the cost per 1,000 is to play with targeting. So by targeting, I mean you can target different devices. Like for instance, generally desktop and tablet have a lower CPM than mobile. Older demographics generally have a lower CPM than younger. A custom segment, if we want to sell life insurance and we're just targeting people that are searching for a life insurance quote, the CPM is going to be higher than if we just want to target everybody of a certain age in a whole country or state. So these are the types of things that's going to lower CPM. And not to throw you for a total loop, but obviously all those other things cause adjustments in our ads too. So if we may not get as good a response from targeting everyone as we would with the tighter audience, but I digress. So that is how we map base metrics and how we overlay them on top of each other to try and figure out what the heck is wrong. Now, if you've watched my video, which posted recently on the conversion triad, which we use to diagnose ads, this is a key part of this. This is like a subset of the conversion triad, these base metrics and mapping them. Because this data, they're literally the coordinates to winning at your campaigns. If you know what your best metrics need to look like, then that is the target you're aiming for, right? And given that you're likely a proficient and professional media buyer, and either you're a copywriter or you've got a copywriter in your team or someone you rely on to make wicked creatives for you and your clients or your business, then you two can work together, look at these metrics, test different ads, and then go back to the drawing board, and then create a hypothesis on what you need to test to improve the results. Just writing whole new ads for the sake of writing whole new ads really is not a good use of your time. Every failed attempt at finding a winning ad or finding a winning campaign should be learned from. And if you have an ad that works really well and it starts to fatigue, you can see that the click-through rate's going down, but CPM staying the same and engagement rate's going down, but it worked steady for 60 days, then just look at how much is being viewed. What's the average watch time? What's the CTR? And just change that first 30 seconds or so, even if it's a 2 or 3 minute ad. Let the rest of the successful ad run, because most people never saw it. I don't mean never saw the ad, I never saw that after 30 seconds bit. And that's what we got to get through our head. It's not that our 3 minute and 13 second sales video or whatever bombed. It's that the first 30 seconds bombed. We don't even know if the next 2.5 minutes needs to be changed unless the ad worked for a really long time. I've had this where we had a wicked ad in 2024. We wrote an ad for a life insurance client that ran solid for 120 days, wicked CPA, excellent spend, thousands of dollars behind it every day. And then it started to tail off. Our average view rate on that ad was about 26%, and the average watch time was about 26 seconds. The ad was 2 minutes long. So we went to work at keeping the last minute and a half and just hammering that 30 seconds. We tried like 20 different iterations on it, different callouts, different visuals, different actors, different voiceovers, all kinds of things until we got one that worked again. Then we got another 45, 50 days out of pretty much the same ad. I've had lots of people here. I've said this to lots of people on seminars and coaching calls and things like this. Like, we often run the same ad for a year and people are like, BS. And I think they misunderstand what I'm saying. I'm not saying we run the exact same ad for 6 months or a year. I'm saying that we're able to keep the same script, the same hook, and keep it working, which is 90% of the battle, trying to get that hook, get that creative, get that thing that works. And we're able to tweak it with different actors, different voiceover, different visuals. And we just put our creative energy into that, right? And that's how you're able to create a successful campaign for the long term. And this goes for TikTok, Meta, Google, right? So how can we leverage this data on TikTok and Meta? I said I'd cover this. Here's what we need to do. So you need to figure out what the base metrics are in the different platforms. I'm going to tell you. In Meta, you want to look at 3-second views. You still want to look at your CPM. I like to look at view through rate. I also like to bring up average watch time, same thing. And I want to look at CTR, CPC, and then clicks and conversions, right? I still do the same generally calculation for myself to look at my conversions in a separate spreadsheet, but I like to pull that up. On TikTok, I look at still my CTR, CPC, and my CPM. Then I look at 7-second focus views, total playthroughs, and then my conversions and clicks to figure out what my landing page conversion is, right? Those same things hold true. It's the same data. We need to hook, it just goes downhill. I remember reading this copywriting book by Joe Sugarman who talked about the slippery slide, right? He talked about if you can't get them started down the slide, you'll never get them to the bottom, which is when they're going to buy. Same thing when you're making an ad. If you can't get them to stick and not swipe away for 3 seconds on Meta or within 7 seconds on TikTok or within 10 seconds on YouTube Shorts or a regular in-stream ad, then who cares anything else? You need that to happen before you can get them to click a button, right? And generally speaking, you need to get them to watch a little bit longer than just that 7 or 10 seconds before you get your call to action out. So the first 10 seconds got to be great, then the next 10 seconds got to be great too. Of course, all your ad has to be great, but we got to stack these little wins when we're creating our ads up to create success at the end, because it doesn't just show up accidentally by writing some ad on a whim, right? We need to take the data we can get in the account, figure out what works, look at these base metrics, compare our gold standard base metrics that we find from winning campaigns with every other campaign that is or isn't working in the future. And you will find that this, combined with our conversion triad, are the most powerful things that you can utilize in your Google Ads account and likely in any other account to get results. And if you get a crappy campaign, you'll know exactly what to look at. Look at that. Look at those engagements. Look at those 7-second, 3-second views. Look at that view rate. Figure out what you need to change, okay? Like I said, I'll put it in the description below, the link to our conversion triad video that I posted recently, which kind of goes over a lot of the same stuff, but focuses it a little bit different on how to get a successful campaign rocking and rolling. But if you want more on demand gen and more how we do this, I'll put a link below to our demand gen primer course. This is a free video that we put together, which shows you how to run demand gen campaigns, how we do it in-house. And we've got our demand gen switch course coming out, which covers a ton of stuff, covers base metrics, covers conversion triad, covers how to go from Meta or TikTok over to YouTube and demand gen. And it covers basically how to be successful with demand gen in 2025 and beyond. All right. Thank you so much for watching this. If you stuck around with me this long, I hope you got great value from this. Consider subscribing and liking the video. Obviously, as every YouTuber says, that helps the algorithm show our ads to more people. And I want more people to hear this stuff because it will help them in their businesses. Thanks so much. We'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.